Tobacco is a leading global cause of death that kills nearly 5.4 million people every year. In India, the high prevalence of tobacco consumption is one of the major challenges to the health and well-being of its citizens. About 2,500 Indians die every day, and approximately 10 lakh people die annually due to tobacco use. Findings from the Global Adult Tobacco Survey India 2009-2010 reveal that the estimated number of adult tobacco users in India is 274.9 million, and this number is growing rapidly, especially among women. Research estimates that nearly 5,500 youth in India start using tobacco daily. Pictorial health warnings on tobacco product packages have been scientifically recognized and are shown to be an effective measure of tobacco control in many countries. Strong pictorial health warnings effectively inform youth and people with low literacy rates in particular about the adverse impacts of tobacco use. Recently, the empirical evidence on India's poor standing in pictorial health warnings vis-à-vis numerous countries across the world has been on the rise. In 1975, the Indian government passed the Cigarettes Act, which introduced the first text-only specified health warning on cigarette packets and advertisements. Other tobacco products were beyond the purview of this law. Over 2 decades, scientific evidence on the health hazards of tobacco use grew, and a civil society movement pressing for stronger tobacco control measures gained momentum. In 1995, a parliamentary committee report suggested the use of symbols and pictorials to make statutory rotating warnings effective. Large warnings in regional languages were also recommended. After 2001, when the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Human Resource Development recommended mandatory pictorial depictions of warnings like skull and crossbones on all tobacco product packages, tobacco control organizations scaled up efforts through policy, legal, media, and youth advocacy to introduce pictorial health warnings. Article 11 of the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control requires parties to the convention to implement large, rotating health warnings on all tobacco product packaging and labeling. Pictorial health warnings on tobacco packages are a cost-effective means to increase public awareness about the dangers of tobacco use.
It is fairly well known that tobacco causes diseases and kills people. But many people who consume tobacco, whether it's a smoked tobacco product like a cigarette or a BD, or oral tobacco like chewed tobacco like gutka, khaini, do not fully recognize the harm that is caused by tobacco. And they do not realize what kind of deadly diseases it can cause and in what very many ways it can kill. To give this knowledge, it's important that we have pictorial health warnings on all tobacco product packages. We must clearly convey to people who are likely to be attracted by tobacco or are using tobacco the nature of harm caused by tobacco. And nothing conveys this with greater clarity than the picture of cancer or heart attack or gangrene. These are only some of the major diseases caused by tobacco. But this information is important to give. Mere words that will not suffice. Many countries in the world have provided for pictorial health warnings on tobacco product packaging, showing very clearly the kind of diseases that tobacco can cause. And these have been very effective. Many consumers of tobacco have started thinking or even practicing tobacco cessation, trying to give up their tobacco habit after seeing these warnings. And it is an absolute right of the consumer also to know what kind of harm can be caused by the product. So the tobacco industry owes it as a duty to the consumer, whereas the governments owe it as a duty to the people to give adequate knowledge, which is important for public health.
Section 7 of the Indian Tobacco Control Law Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products Act 2003 mandates that no person can produce, supply, distribute or import any tobacco product unless every tobacco product package carries a specified health warning, including a picture as specified in the related rules. The Indian government notified one of the strongest pictorial health warnings field tested by Hriday in July 2006. This move was met with severe resistance from the tobacco industry. Earlier packaging and labeling rules of 2006 were amended further with weaker pictorial warnings without skull and bones, which were introduced on September 29, 2007. Finally, a group of ministers constituted to reconcile the issue diluted the already existing strong and field-tested warnings and introduced a set of mild warnings on March 15, 2008. Hriday, along with the Advocacy Forum for Tobacco Control, a national coalition of 65 tobacco control organizations, initiated large-scale media advocacy efforts urging the government to implement strong pictorial health warnings. AFTC members collectively sent appeals to the Prime Minister and the GOM in May 2007, seeking the enforcement of pictorial health warnings without further delays and dilution. Student representatives from several Delhi schools, part of Hriday's school network, met the Union Health Minister Anbumani Ramados, requesting him to convey their support for pictorial health warnings on tobacco product packages to the Prime Minister of India. This meeting received widespread media attention and was successful in disseminating important messages on health warnings to the masses. The new warnings were to be enforced on May 31, 2009. In November 2008, Health for Millions Trust filed a public interest litigation against the Union of India and two leading tobacco companies. Following this, the Indian government took an undertaking in the Supreme Court that pictorial health warnings on tobacco product packages would be mandatory from May 31, 2009.
The delay on the part of the government was because the industry was pressurizing them, and that's the hallmark of the Indian scenario, that the industry is very strong. It actually decides when to implement and when not to implement. So in this context, the push by the activist health groups is very important, and they have taken up the issue of labeling in the Supreme Court of India, which is pushing the agenda further and actually directing the government to implement the law as it is. So that is the significance of it. Now, the problem is the government hasn't implemented it. After 31st of May 2009, under Rule 5 or one of the rules, they have to rotate the warning. They have to change the warning. So they had actually decided to change the warning from lung being affected to oral cavity being affected, and they had actually notified that in March of 2010. The new warnings were to come into force after 1 year, so 1st of June of 2010. But again, under industry pressure, in May itself, on 13th of May, they issued a fresh notification postponing bringing into that force that particular rule and notification in December, of 1st of December 2010. So we challenged that. So we actually started pressurizing. We challenged that through the particular PIL that is pending in the Supreme Court. Then again there was pressure, and the pressure was to change the rule itself. So on 20th of December, they changed the rule for rotation from 1 year to 2 years, which means that technically the new change notification of labeling would come into force actually on the 1st of June of 2011. But even there, the government is not actually agreeing that 2 years lapse on 31st of May 2011. They want to bring that into force on the 1st of December 2011. So we have again challenged that rule and argued that in fact even under the new changed rules, it has to be brought into force in 2011 June.
As per the packaging and labeling regulations, pictorial health warnings were mandated to be rotated every 12 months. Keeping with this mandate, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare notified the mouth cancer warnings in March 2010. Massive advocacy efforts were undertaken by organizations like Public Health Foundation of India and Hriday for ensuring implementation of these effective mouth cancer warnings.
India is lagging behind in implementing a strong and effective warning label. 40 countries in the world, including our neighbor Pakistan, has implemented a strong, effective warning label.
A wide-scale poll was conducted to seek public opinion about effectiveness of the currently being used health warnings in India by comparing these warnings with the mouth cancer warnings which were notified. And it was seen that the results of these opinion poll communicated 80% of the 13,000 respondents wanted to see the effective warnings in the form of mouth cancer warnings. These opinion poll results were communicated to the parliamentarians and to the key political leaders, requesting them to intervene and bring about effective health warnings in India for tobacco product packages.
Since 2006, nearly 18 notifications have been issued for implementation of pictorial health warnings in India. Although the government took cognizance of various advocacy activities and did not delay implementation of the mouth cancer warnings, the tobacco industry coerced the government by announcing the closure of production in their factories and published baseless losses of revenue to the exchequer. The government amended the 2008 notification on December 20th, 2010 and revised rotation of warnings to every 2 years instead of the earlier 12 months. A new set of warnings are expected in December 2011.
As a result of research evidence, advocacy at multiple levels, litigations, and efforts by civil society, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has notified a new set of warnings on May 27, 2011, and these warnings would come into effect from December 1, 2011. The newly notified warnings have new health effects being shown on smokeless products. However, the smoking products continue to show the same health effect of lung cancer, which are being communicated in the current warning. Various civil society organizations like Hriday, Public Health Foundation of India, VHI, and Helis Sheikhsaria Institute of Public Health in Mumbai have rallied for a very strong pictorial health warnings in India, and this pressure has led the government to look into the matter of pictorial health warnings, and lot of advocacy efforts have shown results that the road to pictorial health warnings in India is on progress. However, a lot needs to be achieved still to have effective warnings for the smoking products, and the NGOs, civil society groups and government will need to work in tandem to achieve this larger goal of promoting public health in India.
मुझे कैंसर का कारण था तंबाकू का सेवन। मैं तंबाकू का सेवन दो तरह से करता था, एक तो खैनी के रूप में और दूसरा स्मोकिंग के रूप में, और कभी कभी पान पराग में तंबाकू को मिलाकर खा लेता था और चबा लेता था। उसी का परिणाम यह कैंसर है। पेट्रोल वार्मिंग अपने यहाँ के सिगरेट के पैकेट पर तो मुझे कभी कभी आश्चर्य लगता है। यह इस तरह का कोई निर्देश नहीं देता जिससे लोग डरें। आज वोकल कार्ड मेरी नहीं है, मैं मशीन से बोलता हूँ। अगर देश के लोग तंबाकू का सेवन नहीं बंद करेंगे, हो सकता है एक दिन पूरा का देश मेरे जैसा अपाहिज न हो जाए। अगर तंबाकू के प्रोडक्ट पर पिक्टोरियल वार्निंग प्रभावशाली होती तो शायद मैं तंबाकू और सिगरेट नहीं खाता या पीता, और इससे मेरी जान बच जाती है, मेरे परिवार की जान बच जाती है। इसलिए मैं सबसे निवेदन करूँगा कि सरकार से पर्टिकुलरली कि पिक्टोरियल वार्निंग के लिए उचित कदम उठाएं और इस तरह की पिक्टोरियल वार्निंग तंबाकू प्रोडक्ट पर दें जिसे देखकर दिल दहल जाए और बहुत सारे लोग उसका सेवन बंद कर दें। आज आगे बढ़ा हूँ इस निवेदन के साथ कि लोग हमें देखकर मेरी बातों को विश्वास में लाकर तंबाकू का सेवन बंद कर देंगे।
Tobacco control organizations in India have advocated against the repeated watering down and delay of pictorial warnings and urged the Indian government to adopt from international experiences where lucid and conspicuous warnings have not only motivated tobacco users to quit, but have also prevented non-users from experimenting or becoming regular users. The need of the hour is the Indian government's unequivocal commitment on the issue and collaborative efforts with civil society to ensure the implementation of a crucial public health measure like pictorial health warnings.